Okay, so welcome everyone to this travel meeting. I will just turn it over now to Dolores so she can introduce the speaker today. You are able to ask questions in the chat, which is the bottom feature on your screen that says chat. This will be posted on our YouTube channel later if you missed something or you need to go back and refer to something. Okay, so Dolores, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Terrific. Thanks, Aisha. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, guys. There's Mr. Kunsel. I just got your email. Thanks for joining us today. And hopefully we'll have other people who joined us. And I want to thank everybody for coming, for making our travel program has been absolutely fantastic. Our first trip that we're going on, hopefully, you see, notice I've got my fingers crossed. The Canadian Rockies by train. We've sold it out. So thank you to anybody. Mr. Kunsel's going and Emily's going and I'm going. And Sue Barnes, who is our UC travel chair, she couldn't be here today because she has a family member in for a visit. So once again, we've got Jay Feehan from Collette Travel. If anybody's been part of our Zooms before, he is like our Zoom tour guide. He has done an outstanding job with, I think we've done, how many Zooms have we done, Jay? 3? This is gonna be our 3rd.
3 or I think this is number 4, yeah.
Oh my goodness, number 4. Well, anyhow, he has been with Collette for over 25 years. Also in his past life, he has been a tour guide, so he's familiar with a lot of these places that he's talking about. What he's gonna do is highlight about 3 of the trips that we're gonna do for 22. We'll be doing a highlight on, which leaves January the 23rd, a 5-day spotlight of New Orleans. Sue will be the UC tour guide on that one. August the 22nd to September 1st, we're going to do Islands of New England. I will be your UC tour guide. And towards the end, we're going to talk about our Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Florinade, which is in April of next year. This trip was originally on April the 16th, but we had so many participants, it got sold out. There was a waiting list. Collette very nicely moved it 4 days over to leaving on April 20th. And everybody who was on the 16th, except one couple who had a commitment next year that they couldn't change, they are now on this trip that was moved to April the 20th. But Collette very nicely has given us 10 more seats on the bus. I think we have the whole bus, don't we, Jay, for that trip?
At this point, yeah. At this point, they're holding the whole bus, so hopefully we'll.
We've got the whole bus, so we don't have to have a waiting list anymore. So if anybody wants to go, you are more than welcome. And I'm on that tour with you. When Jay's talking, I'm going to post how you can go online to look at more information and book it. So like they used to say on the Johnny Carson show, here's Jay. Take it away, Jay.
Thanks, Dolores. I'm so glad you did that. I was just thinking I should have had the links handy, but you're a step ahead of me.
Jay, you've trained me very well.
No, that's great. Well, thanks, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, what a lineup. I think you can tell when you look at our lineup, we're really looking for diverse trips. We're doing overseas, we're doing US, we're doing longer, shorter, cheaper, what have you. And so I love that. The variety is key. We all want different things in travel, and Sue and Dolores are really picking some great trips. Now, obviously we can't highlight everything that's in the works or that we're talking about, what have you, but we wanted to kind of highlight these 3 today because we're kind of approaching, some of the deadlines to sign up. So for those of you here for the first time, just a quick rundown. My name's Jay Feehan. I'm with Collette. I've been there a long time, as Dolores mentioned. And Collette is the oldest tour company in the US. We're 103 years in business. We're family owned by an American family. So there's no shareholders, no stockholders. That's part of the reason I've stayed. I really like the company and what they do. You see us quite a bit on Wheel of Fortune, and we are a solid 4-star company. So just so you know, when you go to these links that Dolores has posted, the trip includes air from the 2 major airports, San Francisco and Los Angeles, LAX. All right. So obviously if you need air from another airport in the country or a smaller airport, the price can vary. But we like to give you a real price. I don't know about you. I can't stand trips that say land only. Very deceptive. It's like a car that has no wheels. You want a real price. So we're giving you out the door rates there. And baggage handling's included, 4-star hotels, lots of good sites. It's a nice way to travel. I mentioned I stayed with Collette. Every time there's an emergency, I really love how they handle it. This COVID thing's been a real nightmare in the travel industry, as you can imagine. Couldn't really run trips at all after March of 2020. And so many outfits just printed out travel credits, travel vouchers, very cheap and easy way to handle things. But our owners said, hey, if we can't deliver a trip, we should refund money. It's the ethical thing to do. And so we've given back just shy of 140 now million. The slide's a little older, but just shy of $140 million in refunds to folks. So I share this because it's peace of mind. If these trips don't happen, if something with COVID goes awry or some world event, when you're booked with a Collette tour that they're not going to send you a piece of paper, you're going to get your money back. All right. So hopefully it helps you breathe easy. Okay. So anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at our lineup. So we wanted a little winter getaway. And, if you've been down to the Gulf of Mexico, the weather's great in the winter time. Nice and mild. And what a fun city. If you've not spent time in New Orleans, such a great getaway. So this is, a 5-day trip departing January 23rd. And what a fabulous price. Land, air, everything, $19.99. All right. And of course, those of you that go on the Canadian Rockies trip will get $150 off the $19.99. So really a great bargain. We stay at the One Hotel. It's right there in the French Quarter. And so day one, we'll fly in. I love the architecture, all the wrought iron work and stuff. French Quarter is just beautiful. So day one, we're going to fly on in. Day two, we'll of course start our sightseeing. We'll have breakfast at the hotel and then head out. We're going to do a motor coach tour of the city. So we'll head outside the French Quarter and see some of the other parts of New Orleans. This is St. Louis Cemetery. Where of course New Orleans is at sea level, so you can't really bury people. You hit water once you start digging. So it's really interesting to see the crypts. And of course, the more elegant the crypt, the more money the family seem to have. But interesting to see. From there, we'll head over to Lake Pontchartrain. I'm sure that name's familiar. Back when Katrina happened, you heard the name Lake Pontchartrain all the time. And then over to St. Charles Avenue. This is a real affluent part of New Orleans, up by Loyola University. Just beautiful homes and all there. And then in the afternoon, everybody, we're going to have what we call a choice on tour. Now, most of our tours have choice on tours. So just remember, whenever you see that emblem of the split, what that is 2 attractions or events happen at the same time, and you choose which one interests you. All right. So there's no extra fee for this. Some people think, oh, this is an optional tour that costs extra money, but it's not. It's just 2 things at the same time. And some of them are hard choices. Sometimes I like both. And that's definitely the case in this scenario. The World War II Museum is one of the best in the country. But I know a lot of us, when we think of New Orleans, we think of Mardi Gras. So choice 1, World War II Museum. Choice 2 is Mardi Gras World, where you can get up close to the floats and you get to try some of that king cake that they serve there. So yeah, choice is yours. That evening for a welcome dinner, this is fun. We're going to go to the New Orleans School of Cooking. So you'll not only get to eat great food, but you're going to learn how to make it. And I've been to this restaurant. It's great. You'll get your menus to bring home. So when you get home, if you want to try to make your jambalaya, your gumbo, I know they usually have banana foster for dessert because that's a New Orleans tradition. But anyways, really fun dinner there. So that's all day 2. Now, next day, day 3, we're going to have another choice on tour, and that is to tour the French Quarter or go to the historic New Orleans collection, which is a museum area. And we do offer this choice because, to be honest, some folks might have mobility issues. And the French Quarter, really, it's the old part of the city, and they don't allow buses on about 90% of the streets. So that's why you'll notice you never see a motor coach tour of the French Quarter because you can't go down many streets. So I do recommend the French Quarter walking tour, but if you've been there before or you have mobility issues, you might want to do the New Orleans collection. All right. But love the French Quarter. Gets us down some of the unique alleys and streets. We'll learn about pirate Jean Lafitte and we'll travel down his alley. And then, of course, St. Louis Cathedral that you see here. That little building, you just see a tiny bit on the left. That's actually where the Louisiana Purchase was signed, that more than doubled the size of the U.S. under Thomas Jefferson's presidency. So a lot of history in New Orleans, you know. And once again, the collection's a nice museum with some old artifacts about New Orleans. Later on, we're going to go to Cafe du Monde. We'll meet up, no matter what your choice was. We meet up here for beignets and cafe au laits, kind of something everyone should try there. It's fine. I always recommend to folks, don't wear black when you eat these, because some of them have a lot of that powdered sugar and it can kind of get all over you. I had a lady I was traveling with. I remember she must have laughed or something, but she had white powder around her nose after eating her beignet. And
Oh my, oh my.
I know. I said, this isn't Studio 54 in the 70s. You got to wipe that nose off, Anyways, we had a good laugh over that. And then you'll have some free time in the city. So this is a fun time to do some browsing. During your free time, there will be an optional tour. So optional tour, it does have a fee. There's information about it on the flyer if you want to do this, but this will be a chance to leave the city of New Orleans and head north and visit one of the most famous plantation homes, Oak Alley Plantation. All right. Otherwise, it's free time for us to just enjoy the city. So much to see and do. Next day, everybody, we're off to the swamps, the bayou of New Orleans, and we're going to do a swamp cruise or bayou cruise. I always tell folks, you might see the Duck Dynasty guys out there, or Honey Boo Boo. You never know who's living in these swamps, but just keep your hands in the boat, of course, and enjoy your cruise there. And then afternoon, some free time in New Orleans. We'll also have a dinner at the Court of Two Sisters and a little jazz performance. Always neat to hear some jazz while in New Orleans. We do that at Maison Bourbon, so that's neat. It is the birthplace of jazz after all. And then the next day we'll fly home. All right, so that gives you a feel for the New Orleans trip. Once again, it's a 5-day trip, departs January 23rd. Price on that, $19.99 per person double. If you want your own room the entire trip, it's $23.99 for single. And just so you know, our deadline to get those prices and all locked in is August 23rd. So we've got about a month left to make up our minds on this one. Here's the link. I know Dolores will be sending these out, but I thought I'd just put it here. The links stay the same trip to trip, except for those numbers at the end. All right, those are what changed. So I love the links in that they have so much information. They'll have the price. They'll have what hotels you're staying at. There's a little button you click that says view full itinerary. You can read every day what meals are included, what sites are included. And then as you scroll down, you'll see different tabs. You can look up what the weather's going to be, all that good stuff. So I see when I'm in presentation mode, I see there's questions, but I can't read them at the moment. Did you want to let me know what those are, Dolores, or do you want to do
Sure,
those?
I'm just posting the sites so far.
Oh, okay.
As you're talking, I'm trying to be your co-hostess here.
Oh, I love it. You're my Vanna White then, right?
Okay. And we'll turn the letters to the next one is?
Yes, yes. So do you see any questions there, or should I move right on to the next one?
Go ahead, move on. I don't see any questions. I'm just giving them links. So as you speak, they can write down the links if they want more information or want to sign up.
Oh, okay, great.
And the last link is after I've screwed it all up, they can email me.
So I took these in order, just so you know, of date departures. So our next one will be the April trip, which once again, we're going April 20th now, which is nice too. Our original date was over Easter. So there were a few benefits to us shifting a few days, but one of the things I love is that we have some more space now. So this is one of our exploration tours. What does that mean? It's a smaller group tour. Dolores and I want to make sure we had a few of these out. As you know, a standard tour, we as a company, we go as high as 44. I know some of my competitors do 50. That's real tight on a coach. Most coaches hold 55 people. So a normal tour can max out at 44. Our company average is actually 37 on a tour. But these are tours that we literally designed for smaller groups. So we didn't just take a normal tour and put a cap on it. It is designed for small crowds. So our maximum on these, just so you know, is 24. But we always lose a few right before departure. So our company average on these is 19 travelers. All right. And this one is that fun trip in the spring over to the Netherlands, Belgium, and Paris. All right. And I will say I love these tours. I love the pacing of them. You will notice as a company, Collette has some of the best pacing out there. We try not to do a lot of one-night stays anywhere because that becomes grueling. We like multiple nights. And this is, to me, a prime example. If you take a look at the map, we're going to fly into Amsterdam and have a 3-night stay right there in the city. From there, we head to Bruges, beautiful city, 2 nights right in Bruges. You don't see a lot of tourists stay in Bruges, too. It's a great city. And then from there down to the Champagne district in France, Reims. We'll have 2 nights Reims, and then another 3-night stay in Paris. Okay, so love that there's a couple of 3-nighters in the mix here. All right, so once again, we'll depart, we'll fly on over. This is Amsterdam's Royal Palace. Our hotel, the Eden Hotel, is pretty close, just a few blocks from here. Once again, kind of a smaller boutique-ish hotel. We kind of feel as a company, it doesn't make sense to have a group of 19 and stay at a high-rise with 500 rooms. That doesn't make sense. So we do look for more boutique-ish small hotels. You know, in Europe, you do fly overnight. You get in normally late morning, maybe early afternoon. And so we try to keep folks awake for the till the welcome dinner. This is where you're going to meet your fellow travelers. And then, of course, after that, we're tired. It is time for bed. Often the tour guide will find out who might want to go see the red light district. This is something we often don't advertise well in Amsterdam, but it's actually a tourist attraction. And so the tour guides after hours will ask who wants to go have a look at it. Next morning, we're going to do a canal cruise, which is your best way to see Amsterdam. All right, cute little boats here take us around the city. I love all the bicycles. City is full of bicycles. Oh, here's the red light district. I was going to say, I thought I had a picture of it. They are talking about moving it out of the
I've been
city.
there. Oh, yes. It was very interesting.
Yes. Yeah, there's talk of moving it out of the city because it's become such a big tourist attraction. All right, so part of the reason we were excited for this tour is we have a couple of events on this tour. One of these events is every year, but the other one is once every 10 years. So that's why we thought this would be a perfect trip to throw in. So first off, we're going to pay a visit to Kookenhof Gardens. All right, I don't know how many of you have been, but this is every spring, and it's just a world-renowned tulip garden. All right, 7 million tulips, and just beautiful. And what I really love is it's part inside, part outside, because, you know, we never can be sure what the weather's going to be. And so, you know, knock on wood, it's going to be a glorious day there. But if it's not, I know my parents went several years ago and they had rain, and my mom was a little worried, but they have these fabulous greenhouses, you know, full of the tulips. So you still get the experience. In fact, a couple of these are my mom's photos that I asked her for. So absolutely gorgeous. Some of these, you can't even fathom how big they are. So I know in one of these pictures, she stuck her hand in, there it is, to just show you how huge the flower is, you know. She also took this picture, which I just love, this little kid in these shoes. But anyways, some great time out there at the Kookenhof Gardens. And then the next day, everybody is, and remember, we're in Amsterdam 3 nights. That's why there's so much time for this. But the next day is the once every 10-year event, and it is called Floriade. It's outside the city of Amsterdam. These are, of course, drawings. They're in a new location this year. But if you look at this picture, you'll see Schiphol. That is the airport, and you'll see the city skyline of Amsterdam. But this is just a neat event. It is celebrating horticulture. And so there are 40 different countries that are going to come and have displays, all right, all about plants and going green and flowers. And, you know, one of the biggest movements, of course, is how we can go green as a world and keeping buildings more cool without heavy air conditioning and what have you. So some really interesting displays. They do have a gondola ride because the park is quite large. And as you see in this picture, they'll have lectures going on and fountains. And I think some of the neat stuff is really in the greenhouses that you can see all the different flowers from really all over the world. So it's really going to be a fun event. So between this and the Kookenhof Gardens, if you're a gardener of any kind, or you're in your local garden club or a flower lover, this is going to be a really neat trip for you. And the meals are interesting too, especially on small group trips. It just gives us a chance to do some unique things. A lot of tour companies eat at hotels. We kind of think that's boring. You know, if you have dinner at the Hilton, you could be in Ohio for all you know when you're eating at a Hilton. So we always look for unique attractions, and you'll notice, especially in Amsterdam, we have some neat meals going on. We're going to visit a brewery where they hired disabled people, and so that's really interesting to learn about. We're going to have a dine around as well. Now, dine around is where your tour guide will give you a ticket to have dinner, and it'll have 4 restaurants listed, and they also pass around a menu. And basically, within the group, you decide where you want to eat and with who. So it just kind of shakes it up, makes it fun. You know what I mean? Okay, next day, we're leaving Amsterdam. So that was our 3 nights in Amsterdam. We're going to head to Gouda. I think we've all heard of the cheese. We're going to visit the town of Gouda and visit a cheese factory and get to nibble on some cheese and learn how it's made, which is always yummy. And then a visit to Kinderdijk, which is the windmill capital of the world. So it's kind of neat to see these up close, get to learn about windmills. And then later in the day, we'll arrive in Bruges. All right. Bruges is just a real, if you haven't been, a real hidden gem of a city. It's considered Venice of the West. So lots of waterways, bridges, not a lot of roads. It is a walking town, walking city. They don't have a ton of hotels there. So, you know, a lot of tourists visit Bruges for the day. They do day trips, but they don't stay there. And that's something that really appealed to me when I looked at this tour. I'm like, wow, we're actually staying in Bruges for 2 nights. Just a great city. I love the guild architecture, the waterways with the ivy growing up the sides. And so we'll do a tour there, a walking tour, and kind of see the main sites of Bruges. But once again, you're here for 2 nights and you have free time in the town itself. So that's fabulous. There is an optional tour that will take place called The Best of Bruges, which does involve more walking, but I think you'll love it because a couple of things Bruges is known for. Number one is chocolates. They have several chocolate makers there. Well, we're all familiar with Belgian chocolates, right? So we'll go out and have some chocolates. And this is also the lace factory capital of Europe. So we'll learn about lace, visit a lace center as well. So once again, that'd be an option if you want to do it. If not, you won't be bored. It's such a beautiful city, lots to see and do. All right. More food. I must have been hungry when I put this show together. Okay, from there, we're going to go to Brussels, do a visit to Brussels and a little tour, and then continue south now down to Reims. We're now in France. This is a Champagne area, and we'll visit Reims, Notre Dame Cathedral. Do keep in mind, people hear Notre Dame, they always think of Paris, the one that burned. This is not that one, but another gorgeous cathedral in Reims. And then we'll be touring the Champagne route and doing some tasting, of course. And then our next stop, everyone, is 3 nights in Paris. And oh, I love the city of Paris. And I'm so glad you get 3 nights while you're there. So it's a nice mixture in Paris because there's a lot to do in Paris and it's hard to include it all and everyone has their desires. So I think you'll enjoy how this works out because it's a nice mixture of things we include, but also free time to do what you want to do. All right. So one of the things we include that, once again, we really couldn't do with a group of 40 people, but we can do with a smaller group of 19 or so, is we're going to get into antique cars with a local guide in each car, and they're going to take us around the city to see the sights. All right. So how different is that to be in someone's car versus a bus to tour the sights of Paris?
Sounds terrific.
Oh, isn't it great? And then you're also going to have a complete free day in Paris. All right. So this is fun. Of course, that's a photo right there of the Champs-Élysées. There's just so much to see and do in Paris. I mean, I enjoy just strolling. They have the sidewalk art. They have the cafes. Really fun to have a baguette and a cappuccino and watch the crowds go by. I did, of course, I browsed the Champs-Élysées, but I mean, some of the stores, I mean, this one here, I saw the door. I'm like, Jay, you can't afford to go in. You know, you see a door like that, you just keep on walking, at least me. But it's still fun.
Go next door to the Versace, right? Just go to Versace.
It's kind of the Rodeo Drive of Paris, you know?
They do.
But of course, you can also go to the Louvre if you want to see the Louvre. So, it's really your day to do what you want to do. Now, next day, we're going to have a choice on tour. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. One of the free evenings. This will be an optional tour. And I get asked a lot about this. And this one's really up to you. It's expensive. There's no way around it. It's a cabaret show at the oldest cabaret in Paris.
Oh,
I
wow.
did it years ago. I enjoyed it. I don't know. It just kind of gives you bragging rights. I went to the oldest cabaret show in Paris. The food was quite good, lots of wine. The show itself was interesting because it kind of starts out G-rated, but then about midway through they come out topless. But it is France. They just get naked at the beach, and it's very different than
That's right.
different than the US. Even when you watch your TV, there's a little bit more nudity going on. But I was glad, I went. But once again, that's something that's totally up to you. The next day, though, is the choice on tour day. This is another hard choice. It's almost hard when they have two really good things. So one of the most famous museums, I know the Louvre is super famous, but I did the d'Orsay as well. I love the d'Orsay. This is a fabulous museum and an old, elegant train station. And so your choices are visit to the d'Orsay Museum or a trip outside the city up to Monet's Gardens at Giverny. All right. And I love that they tie in a garden visit because obviously this tour with the Kookenhof Gardens and the Floriade has attracted a lot of flower lovers, garden lovers. So how appropriate to have this be one of our choices, Monet's Gardens at Giverny. So once again, this is included in the trip, but the choice is yours, which one you want to do. All right. And then our final dinner, everybody, is fun in that it's not just a dinner, it's going to be a cooking class. And who doesn't love French cuisine? So we're going to have a cooking class with a chef, learn how to make great food, and then we're going to get to eat what we helped create. All right. And fun night, lots of wine. We'll say goodbye to everybody we've made friends with on our 12-day trip. And then the next day, we'll fly on home. All right. There is an extension on this trip, too, if you want to stay a little longer. There's an extension to London. This is where you would, on the final day, when we're all heading to the airport, you would be taken to the train station in Paris, and you board the Eurostar high-speed train that goes Paris to London under the English Channel, the Channel.
The Channel.
Yeah. So the 3-night extension price-wise, I looked up, it's $8.99 per person double, $11.99 single. All right. And what's nice is you don't have any flights on this. It just takes you right over to London. You have your 3 nights. We include 2 days of sightseeing passes. All right. So that you're seeing some of the sights. The Kensington Palace is included. Tower of London. This is where Henry VIII beheaded 2 of his wives. Oh, and they have those beefeater people out front. I love getting my pictures with folks like that. But anyways, if you've not done London, kind of fun to extend, or if you like your vacations a little longer, because our tour is 12 days, you add 3 more nights. That's kind of nice. Anyways, that gives you a feel for this trip. Once again, we depart April 20. Here is the web link. I think Dolores probably popped that into the room already. And then any questions so far? Oh, did I give the price on that? I don't think I did. So the main tour, land, air, everything, $49.99. All right, per person double. Once again, if you are traveling on New Orleans or the Canadian Rockies, you will get $150 off that price. The single's a little high on this one, $6,099 for single accommodations. And just so you know, our signups, I just want to explain all this again. So in moving to this new date, when we set up these tours, we don't know how we're going to do. In fact, do you remember, Dolores, when we started working on the Canadian Rockies train trip, we guessed we'd get about 12 people, and we ended up with 38 people. So when we planned this small group Floriade trip, we were thinking 8, maybe 10. Well, the tour really sold out quickly. So now they've given us, at this point, until September 21st, this is a private UC retirees date. Right now we're sitting at 14 people though, so we have room for exactly 10 more, and then it's shut off. Now, if we only get 5 more on September 21st, they will open it up to the public, and we'll have a few folks joining us. All right, so that's kind of how that works. Any questions I should answer, Dolores?
No, she wanted to know which one had the 10 seats, Reba, and I told her it was the one that you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh, Reba, I know that name. Yes. Yeah. So the April 20th has the 10 open seats.
Yes. And it's interesting that the people, except like I mentioned in the beginning, I think there were 16 people. 2 people stayed behind on the 6th because they have a prior commitment. But when we called everybody to go, they all unanimously said, oh, yeah, we'll go on the 20th because we'll be traveling with everybody from the UC. So that was the whole advantage. Everybody wanted to travel with people that they have a background familiar with at different UC campuses. So it was a resounding yes, move us over. So now we have 10 more seats for people who want to join us and make it the UC travel to Netherlands, Brussels, and France. And having been there to do a majority of the things that Jay is talking about, I'm telling you, there's not enough time in the day to spend in Paris. You know, you just, when I was there, I did the museum pass and I was there at every museum. It was absolutely fabulous, fabulous.
I love Paris, yeah.
Yes. So, and the best part about being there, I'm sure there's people joining us who have been there. It's a relatively small place. It's not like if you're in Los Angeles, oh, and I want to go to San Diego, so I'm going to drive 2 hours. Everything is very relatively handy, wouldn't you say, Jay? It's not, you don't have to do a lot of driving and a lot of, commiserating here, there, and the other. And, once you get to the top of the Arch of Triumph and you can look out there and say, oh, I want to go here and I want to go there and I want to go there. That's great. And the churches are fantastic.
Yeah. We try to keep our drive time to a minimum. I mean, obviously you go on tours to see the sites, but we've learned through the years, we do a lot of research, and people want more nights and locations. They don't like those one night stays. I still look at some companies that go to Europe and do one night, and I think, oh, that's like a death march. I mean, you want to unpack. So 3 nights Amsterdam, 3 nights Paris, the drive times in between, reasonable.
I've done those where no sooner you get to the room and you have to repack it so they can pick it up outside your room. You're like, oh, what do I take? What do I do? I have to get back to the room to pack the stuff. Oh, no. That's.
While I have the screen up too, I'm going to mention this, and it's kind of off subject, but hopefully, we don't know, but hopefully it will help someone out in a bind. But I've been doing this a long time, and I in the industry quite a while, and I was here for 9/11. And I was pretty new to this job. I had just come off the road as a tour guide when 9/11 hit. And I'll tell you, travel stopped for about 5-6 months. It wasn't nearly as long as COVID, 1.5 years. But what really shocked me back then is how fast companies folded. There were a lot of bankruptcies out there. And what breaks my heart is I kept reading, if you paid by check, you're not getting a refund. I mean, you're just done. If you paid by credit card, the credit cards will assist. And they did. They reimbursed people if you paid by Visa, MasterCard, what have you. And I saw a little bit of this again with the recession. There were a couple more in 2007 and 8 that folded. And so right now, I've only seen a couple of places go under, smaller places, Bookit.com out of Chicago was the first. But so a few companies have gone bankrupt. But I just mentioned this because I still see companies giving a discount to write a check. And I don't know about you, but when times are tough like this, alarms go off to me. I'm just sharing with you. I know you get offers in the mail, you see catalogs come, what have you. Don't write checks to travel companies right now for the next couple of years, and don't do wire transfers and this and that. I mean, you have to question, why do they want a check? It's not 1982. Safeway doesn't want your check. The dry cleaner doesn't want your check. Why do they? And it's usually because they're financing 12 new riverboats. They're not stable. Ethical firms, educated travelers know you use a credit card. If we ever folded, which won't happen. But if we did, guess who gives you all your money back? Your Visa and your MasterCard. So I just wanted to share that because I'm still seeing stuff about writing checks. And I'm just like, I know you want to save money, but don't use those credit cards. You get miles, you get points, but your money's also protected.
That's a great thought. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, to be honest, between you and me, I keep thinking with 1.5 years without travel, how come I haven't seen any bankruptcies? But I was told PPP loans have really propped up outfits, but we will see some. So anyways, all right, let's look at our next one. So I love this area. I grew up in this area, so I am a little biased, keep in mind, but this is such a fun trip. Just different. Now, this is a trip that focuses on New England's coastline. All right. So I like folks to know, because some people think, oh, are we going to be in Vermont with the foliage? That's a different trip. Maybe we'll look at that down the road. But this is just a great coastal trip to some of the fabulous islands of New England, and talk about
Oh, there you go.
this trip is great once. All right. So your first hotel is 3 nights. Your second hotel on Cape Cod is 4 nights. So beautiful pace to this. And what do we do during the day? Of course, go out and see some of the many islands of New England. And then, of course, at the end of the trip, if you want to stay longer, there's another extension. This one is a 2-night stay in Boston if you want to check out the sites there. All right. So this is the city of Providence. Its nickname is the Renaissance City. Now, I went to college here in the 80s, late 80s, and it was a dump back then. And what's so interesting is this man came in, this mayor, he was, well, corrupt. Most of the politicians, sadly, are corrupt, but he came in and cleaned up the city, made it a show place. He got the first Nordstroms to come to New England. He got parking lots removed that had water under them. And you'll see those little spigots in the waterways. They shoot up water and fire. And I mean, really made it a show place. Now, sadly, he did most of this illegally through coercion, corruption, and he went to jail for 9 years. Buddy Ciancy's his name, such a character. But what's interesting is when he came out of jail, people kind of forgot the bad stuff, and he was very popular again and right about to run for office again, but he passed away. So anyway, but he is the hero of Providence, cleaning it up. So we're going to tour downtown. We'll learn about him and what he did. And then we're going to go over to the old East Side and see where a lot of historic buildings are. Brown University, the famous Ivy League college, is over there. Brown University, if you notice this building on the picture on the left, has a red cross on it. Brown was actually a hospital. That building was a hospital during the Revolutionary War. So things really go back quite a ways. Right down the road from that is the First Baptist Church, the oldest one in the US. A lot of history. So anyways, that's our morning in Providence. Rhode Island's a small state, by the way. You can get anywhere in a half an hour. So that afternoon, we head to Newport. Newport, if you haven't been there, is where the rich and famous would, well, rich especially, would spend their summers, especially if you're wealthy and have a cotton plantation in the South. You would want to come up here for your summer months when it's so hot. And so they built their summer cottages here. And of course, they're all down Bellevue Avenue. There's about 10 of them, and we call them the Newport Mansions. All right. So we'll travel down Bellevue, and they're pretty amazing. It's fun to hear the stories of the old days and the parties they would have. And really goes back to the Gilded Age here. But would be remiss if we didn't include a visit to one of the Newport Mansions. So what we're going to do is have a choice on tour. And this is where you have 2 mansions to choose from. All right. And you pick which one you want to visit. All right. So the one on the left is William Vanderbilt's Marble House. All right. I got to admit, that's my favorite, but everyone has their differences. If you're a big fan of the movie The Great Gatsby, that was filmed in the one on the right, Rosecliff. All right. That Rosecliff was also used in the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis movie, True Lies. All right. So maybe if you're a movie buff, you can do the Plan B, the Rosecliff. But Marble House, I absolutely love. Just so elegant, Here's another view of each one of them. But I have some pictures of the inside of Marble House. I mean, look at, and imagine this was just for the summer, just crazy. I love that fresco and dining room table. Now, William was a big tea drinker, so he actually added later on a tea house in his backyard. He wanted to make it the Japanese style, so he has his own Japanese style tea house out the back. But anyways, you'll enjoy whatever mansion you choose to tour. So would you believe that's all day 2 of this trip? Lots of good sights. Day 3, we're going to take a ferry to another just beautiful island, smaller island, very well known in New England, but a lot of us West Coasters haven't heard of it, but it is called Block Island. And just a beautiful little island with some homes and fancy hotels and just elegant out there. We're going to have an included lunch out there, get some good New England seafood in. We'll tour the island and then head on back to the mainland. All right. And then The next day we leave Providence and we're going to head towards Cape Cod. But before we go over the bridge onto the Cape, we're going to spend a little time in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And Plymouth was the cranberry capital for many years. I grew up about 15 miles from here, so I was pretty close. But cranberry's big industry. Wisconsin has now passed Plymouth as cranberry capital, but Ocean Spray's headquarters are here, and we're going to visit a cranberry bog and learn about cranberries. Get to eat some of them and all. And then, of course, you can't go to Plymouth without seeing the infamous Plymouth Rock, which, I mean, when I was a kid, we had to bring everyone who visited to this rock, and it is literally a rock in a pit. And, you know, never understood all the excitement, but it is a historical point. But, you know, obviously it's not the Rock of Gibraltar, just so you know. All right. Anyways, from there, we're going to head over the Bourne Bridge onto Cape Cod for a 4-night stay, which is such a treat. So on the Cape is known for its beaches. We're going to stay at this hotel, the Seacrest Beach Hotel. So you really can enjoy, and especially in the evenings when we're back at the hotel, you can enjoy time on the beach. One of our first dinners there now will be an included lobster dinner. All right, so always interesting. When I moved to California, when was that? 97. I was so surprised that when you order lobster here, you usually just get the tail. And you know, where I grew up, we got the whole thing plopped on a plate. And so, you know, we eat the claws, we eat the tail. Your tour guide will assist you opening it up. I know a lot of folks struggle with how to eat a lobster, but oh, is it fabulous. And obviously, if you're allergic to shellfish, they'll have a chicken and steak dish or what have you to order, or vegetarian. So you don't have to eat the lobster. Okay, next day, probably my favorite day of the trip. I love Martha's Vineyard. My word, what a beautiful spot. And as you know, most presidents would vacation here, you know. So if they go there, you know, it's something special, but just a beautiful spot. We'll learn all the history of Martha's Vineyard, you know, the meeting spot, the old gingerbread homes are so charming. It's just a great place to go. And just keep in mind, we take ferries out to these islands. So we'll be on the morning ferry out. Our bus comes on the ferry with us so that we have our bus to tour the islands. And then later in the day, we'll come back. This is Falmouth on Cape Cod. Our next day is to Provincetown. This sits at the very tip, the hook of Cape Cod. And this is an artist colony, Provincetown. Beautiful, lots of art galleries, really fun people watching and fabulous seafood. So we'll have some free time and do some touring upon arrival. In the afternoon, we have another one of those fabulous choice on tours. And this is another hard one because they're both good. Choice 1 is a whale watching cruise. All right. Choice 2 is a trip to the sand dunes where you're on a Jeep ride. And Cape Cod has the National Sand Dunes Recreation Area that will go all around the sand dunes. So once again, choice is yours, but a hard one. They're both good.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, also going to visit Hyannis Port. Now, if that name rings a bell, of course, it's probably because of the Kennedys. This is where the Kennedy compound is. I know we normally drive by the Kennedy compound, so you just get a feel for it. But, you know, they have those big walls, you know, so you tend to just see the roof. But it's still interesting because, as you know, the cameras used to descend all the time on the Kennedy compound. And we'll often visit, too, that little JFK memorial that's there. They have a nice memorial. We don't go to Chappaquiddick, by the way. Keep it positive.
Oh,
okay. Next day, Nantucket, the final day of sightseeing. So we take the boat out to Nantucket, the ferry. Another great day of sightseeing. This is a big artist area too. You know, a lot of people work from home, artists, writers, just beautiful. And of course, a lot of celebrities live on these islands. You have Ted Danson and his wife, Mary Steenburgen, James Taylor and Carly Simon, even though they're divorced, both live out on the islands. Mike Wallace had a home here, so it's neat. So we'll do some touring. You'll have some free time as well before we catch the late in the day ferry back. And then the trip wraps up. We'll have a farewell dinner, say goodbye to everybody, fly on home, all right, from Boston's airport. And then once again, we'll have the extension to Boston. If you want a couple nights here, we'll drop you off in town. The hotel's got a great downtown location. We include the hop-on, hop-off ferry so that middle day, not ferry, trolley, sorry. That middle day, you have transportation that stops, goes around the city. You can hop on, hop off. you've recognized those, I'm sure. But anyways, lots of history here. If you want to learn about Paul Revere, see the old North End. You can see the outside of the famous Cheers bar that's there. And so anyways, great city. So that is our Cape Cod trip. All right, here's the link for that one. Any questions pop up so far, Dolores, on that one?
No, Reba just asked about that trip. No, if anybody has any ideas for future trips, always let us know. We have a little bit time left. Do you want to go over our trip at the end of the year? Do you have time? Or is that good?
I didn't put in any pictures, but I can talk about it. Let me, what I didn't do yet is give you the islands of New England details. So this goes August 26th.
Mhm.
Our deadline to sign up is in February, so we still have time on that. The rates, including your airfare, are $31.99 per person double, $39.99 for a single room the whole time. And then to add the 2 nights Boston, $549 per person double, $8.99 single on that.
Okay, we have one question from Renee. She wants to know, is there a Boston Tea Party museum?
There is. Now, the trolley will stop there, but there is a fee to go into the tea party. But there's so much to do in Boston. I love that city, and it's funny, I grew up, 20 miles outside, and most of us, you'd find we only went in like once or twice a year. And now that I live out here, I'm like, boy, I would love to just have a week there. So much to see and do, from walking the Freedom Trail to just great museums. Old Ironside is there. Yeah, the Tea Museum. What else? They have a great theater district. It's a great city.
I have been to the Vanderbilt home, and it's exactly what you said. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Of course, the tour ends at the gift shop. So what does that tell you?
I know. That's right. So on all of our trips, we try to work with you, everybody. So if you, these are your vacations, and I know some companies are really regimented and have fees for everything and what have you, but just, if you want to fly to a destination early, a couple days, visit a friend, visit a relative, or, you just want to go ahead of the group a few days, let us know. It's very easy for us to ticket you accordingly, to go early, to stay late. Some people want business class. I know that gets expensive, but boy, I wish we all could fly business. Some people want back-to-back. They say, well, I'm in Paris. Do you have a Ireland trip going a few days later? I want, you're already in Europe. It saves you on airfare for the next trip. You're already there. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, I have to add, let me jump in ahead of you there. I have never traveled with Collette, but just in the time that I've been booking these trips with Jay and the other staff members, I'm impressed. Everybody's been so accommodating. We've had so many people who I want to see some family here. I want to see some family there. I've not heard any negative, oh, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. Everybody, even though I've never gone with Collette, I get very good vibes that everybody's very accommodating to this company. So
I am so thrilled to hear that.
My trust in Jay here. It's true. I think, we've had numerous people who have had questions, and I've referred them to Jay or just someone else. And I've never had one person come back and say, oh, nobody answered my questions. Everybody was extremely impressed with the fact that everyone at Collette was willing to help them out with all their questions and answers. So I feel good about it. That's just me.
Well, one of the things we're best known for is our insurance, because we've had the same insurance for 50 years. We're family owned. We know stuff happens. And so I don't like that most companies, you need doctor's notes, death certificates. At Collette, as long as you buy our insurance, and I will say it's one of the more reasonable insurances out there. It's $3.99 on most trips. Sometimes it is as high as $4.49 if there's a train component, cruise component, something that has tough terms. But what I love is you buy that insurance, you can cancel the day before the trip, no questions asked, and you get every penny back except the insurance, but you get all your money back in money, not voucher. All right. So it just makes life easy, because there's nothing worse than faxing death certificates to cruise lines and tour companies and doctor's notes and begging, and so we feel if you don't want to go, we don't want you there. All right. And then what's nice is on the trip, if you hurt yourself, trip, fall, break something, and sometimes it's not even you. I was a tour guide for 11 years, and I had a couple fly home because their kid was in a car crash, and things happen. And what's great with the insurance is we get you on the next flight out free of charge, get you home, and you get a refund for every night you missed of the trip after you left, and
Oh, that's interesting.
medical aspects taken care of. So it's important to have insurance, especially when you leave the US,
Two more things, Jay. Would you mention in case we're in a country that says we need a COVID test, how Collette will help find a place where we can all get that COVID test?
Yeah, and this is evolving. So what we've been doing as a company is as places open up, and we've had places like Croatia's been operating for a couple months now. Croatia was one of the first to open. We do a yacht cruise there, so it's kind of a small group atmosphere. But what we're doing is towards the end of the trip, all Americans need that test to fly back to the US. So we've been finding clinics. And what we do is make an appointment for the group and bring you to the clinic. Now, it is at your own expense, of course. We're not going to pay for testing. But what we do after that is the tour guide runs to a print shop and prints the whole group's results so that they have it for the flight home. The only issue we're having is as more of Europe's opening up as a company, we're not a medical clinic company, and we're getting a little overwhelmed. All our Italy tours have started, all our Greece tours. We have 16 tours to Italy alone. And so it's getting a little overwhelming. So they are looking at some point this fall to try something else. There's talk of some companies where you can purchase a little kit and do it in your room, and then the tour guide will pick them all up and run them somewhere. So they're looking at other things because we don't want to hire 20 people just to set up clinic visits after losing $140 million.
Having worked in healthcare for a long time, you don't have to, you don't want to buy a ticket to the nearest health clinic.
Well, that's the thing. So
and you answered Renee's question.
It's a work in progress.
Renee wanted to know about tours to Italy.
Yeah, so everything's changing. That's the hardest part with COVID. It's always, the policies last month aren't the policies this month. One of the things, so I'm actually glad we're talking about this, because one of the things coming down the pike, which I just learned about. All right, so some of these countries are letting you in if you don't have a vaccine. You have to have a negative test, but they let you in. But guess what we're finding now? France just announced, we'll let you in, but you can't go to any museum. You can't go to any restaurant if you're not vaccinated. So now we're like, well, what are we going to have people sitting on the bus while the rest of the group's in a museum? No. So at some point, I think September 1st or so, they're going to launch, for some countries in Europe, you have to be vaccinated to go on the tour. And the reason we're doing it is because we don't want you to go on a tour and you're not allowed in half the sites. So I thought, oh boy, when I say it's changing every week, it's changing every week. It's crazy.
Oh, I just read in the paper today, I was reading a Wall Street Journal, and they say, if you haven't got your current passport up to date, it's going to be an absolute impossibility to get it. They are so backed up 4, 6, 8 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, for any of these, I think if you need to do it, I would do it now. I mean, if something was coming up, I mean, the Netherlands is coming up in April. If it's going to expire, I would attempt to do it. I did mine 6 months in advance and there was no complaint. But it's things like that and they say going to make an appointment is an impossibility. They're just so backlogged at the federal level that it's going to be a long time before you get that renewal passport.
Yeah, and I read that too, 8 weeks. So you want to count on 2 months. Yeah. Let me see what other pictures I have. Okay, I've mentioned this throughout the show, but I just think this is so nice. It's just a little thank you for traveling with us. When you go on a trip, you pay the regular rate and all, but when you come home, you have, for a full year, you have 150 off your next trip. And if you don't go anywhere within that year, that's fine. You have a second year of $100 off the trip. All right. So I know we have a big group going to Canadian Rockies. Everything I showed today, you'd get 150 off because you went on the Canadian Rockies. So that's kind of nice.
Reba has a question. Is Canada open for tourists yet? I don't think so. Is it? I don't think so yet.
No. Not yet. Yeah, We're talking about that when we first logged
It's up to
in,
the
yeah.
Prime
'Cause
Minister.
David Kutzel now, he asked, are we gonna go? And I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. We're still in the works with it, but we're waiting on Trudeau. He closes, the way everyone's system's different, but what Trudeau has done is starting last March when COVID first happened, he closed Canada to the next month on the 21st, and that's his thing. He just keeps closing to the 21st. So currently they are definitely closed till July 21st. Now we're getting close to that time. So in the week, about a week leading up to the 21st of July, we'll start to hear murmurs of what he's going to do. And then he comes out and makes an announcement. So I am just hoping he opens, because to be honest, the last one, people thought for sure after June 21st he would open. His goal, though, is to get 70% of his country vaccinated before he opens. And he's getting close. So we're hoping. That's all we can say.
I bought it. Jay, I bought a new piece of luggage just for this trip. Now, come on.
I know. It's very frustrating. I know. I hate
I got my
waiting.
fingers crossed. Oh my gosh, there's, and the thing is that there's nothing else we can do. You can't do much. Just Prime Minister Trudeau is in charge of it all. I think being in politics, right?
Yeah, and there's still countries not open. People, a lot of Europe has opened, but I mean, the UK still isn't. So there's places still
Yeah.
closed. Where as a company, people are shocked because they're like, "Oh, you must be so busy," and I'm like, "Not yet. We are still daily canceling trips." I just got the email today. UK isn't open right now. Africa just had some Africa trips canceled. Of course, the vaccine level is at 2% there, so it's going to be a little bit, but.
All right. Right.
Passport, like Dolores said, make sure you take it out, make sure it's up to date, what have you. If not, renew it. No
Yes.
visas required for anything I showed today. One of the questions I still get asked is about the Real ID. That started kicking in. They moved it again to May of 23. So we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, is that it? I didn't know that. The Real ID is on.
They just keep
Okay.
bumping it,
Okay.
And
Well, if
anyways,
anybody's interested, Global Entry is very handy to have. I joined Global Entry about 8 or 10 years ago, and that's very handy. You get to be pre-checked. Your passport goes into the machine. You don't have to go talk to some kind of an aggravating person who wants to check everything out. You just put it in the machine. And I had one episode, everyone might laugh at this, coming through customs, and some man just pulled me over. I step over here with that luggage, and he asked me if I had anything in there. Well, my thing is pate. So I tell the truth. Yes, I said, I have a can of pate. And he says to me, did you like it? And he says, yes, okay, just close it. So I said, well, why did you pull me over? He says, you have a pink Day-Glo suitcase, and I wanted to see who owned that suitcase. And I said, oh my goodness. I was already thought I was going to go to prison with my can of pate.
is that why you bought new
I've seen
luggage?
people who work in customs. Yeah, no, that was a long time ago. My daughter convinced me to buy a Day-Glo pink carry-on bag so you could see it when it came down the luggage thing. And I'm like, oh.
Classic.
Yeah, I try to be nice to those people because they can make you miserable real quick.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I wanted to put my info up. I normally don't do this, to be honest. As reps, I cover 3 states. I live in my car, whatever. But since COVID hit, I'm home a lot more, and some of my counterparts, we're not, so it's a little easier to reach me these days, and always happy to answer questions. So hopefully I won't go back to that whirlwind lifestyle of living in my car. That was kind of nutty. All right. Let's see. Let me share. Well, unshare the screen. I thought I'd mention what we have. I didn't line up slides. I didn't know that we'd have time for it and all, but I thought I'd mention what Dolores and I are looking at. So we have talked in the past about a Swiss train tour. We're holding off on that just to see how everything plays out, but you'll see it down the road at some point. One of the trips we'll highlight probably in our next Zoom is the fabulous Danube Christmas tour. We call it Christmas tour. It's a holiday Christmas markets tour to Europe. What a price. Take a look at that one. If you've ever called the river cruise lines, these river cruises, they're always 4,500 to 55 to 65 when you include your air and all. And this thing is such a bargain. It's in the low threes, mid threes with air to have a river cruise in Europe, 9 days. Great trip. And if you haven't been to the Christmas markets, what a treat. So different. The lights, the music, the glühwein that they drink. So we'll highlight that one, but it's a fabulous bargain. And of course, river cruises are fun. All your meals are included. They don't try to sell you all the rubbish that the big ships do, you know, your face chewing while you're eating dinner, all that crazy stuff. And a lot of your sites are included. So that makes it different than big ships too. And also you're not around 3,000 people, you're around 148 people. So those
I
are
just
all,
put the link up for you. I just put the Danube link.
oh, perfect. Yeah, great trip. So we'll highlight that one down the road too.
Okay.
And then another one we're planning, and I've been there several times. And this is going to be early 23, but is a South Africa trip.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's another.
I've mentioned this to a couple people, and I've already got about 3 people who want to know. And the little side trip to Dubai,
Yes.
I think I've already got about 3 people who are holding off. I said, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
2024. Oh my goodness gracious.
Is it 20? No, 23. I think
23,
February.
I'm sorry, 23.
23. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we'll have more info on that coming down the pike here too.
Jay, you did another great, I think you should be on TV, Jay.
Oh, you know, I used to be a tour guide, and one comment I'd get from people is you should have a talk show. And I always thought, I don't know where that comes from, Merv Griffin or something. I don't know. But I mean, I do love chatting, obviously. So I wouldn't mind that.
You do a great job. Thank you so much for
Well,
taking
thank
care of
you.
it. UC Travel goers.
Ooh, Morocco. There's a thought. Fun place. And what was the other comment? The Silk Road. Ooh. Yeah, keep those requests coming. We're open. We, you know, obviously we want to make sure our trip has a variety of places.
Marcella, you mentioned that. She mentioned about Morocco or the Silk Road. Let's go.
Yeah. Great trip.
By the time I go on these, I won't have a nickel left and I won't have any family. They'll have to make appointments to see me and I'll be selling oranges by the side of the freeway.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll do it again soon. And you know how to reach Jay and you know how to reach me. And hopefully all the links I gave you are correct. If not, you can find me and get mad at me and I'll give you the correct ones.
Thank you for posting those, Dolores.
You're more than welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks a ton, Jay.
Thank you. We'll see y'all later.
You got it. Bye.
Bye.